not on this page, so this is all together, all teachers together. If you look at the staffing analysis additional staffing metrics, the next page, and the print gets a little bit small on this page. In the top, I think on your copy, you see my penciled in number there. Student count FTE, I just wrote 6,700. Again, these figures are pulled from websites and pulled from FID reports and rep reports that go back a year. So they're looking backwards. As you see, last year's count was 6,948. So I'm trying to give you more current numbers, knowing that we're sitting right around that 6,720. And you can compare, across the, the bars. Couple of things to note: if you look at, at the number of counselors we have, I've made that adjustment. We did have 2 counselor reductions, and then we added 1 back for the work over there at TVLA and Career Center. So now that number is 15.5, not the 16.5 you see there. And then the total number of social workers, psychologists, and special ed professional staff, and then special ed aides. Those are the total numbers in the district. And then you start looking at ratios. If you look down at students per counselor, with the net 1 less counselor, right now Taylor is at 1 counselor per 432 students. And as you see, our peers, Allen Park 1 to 723. Lincoln Park 1 to 661. Oak Park 1 to 557. Romulus, so forth, 1 to 480. Van Buren 1 to 694. So we definitely compare favorably in that category. And again, students per social workers, that 1 to 833. And that breaks down across the page. Students per psychologist there, that 1 to 1,158, and that number again compares favorably across the page. Stop anytime because there's so much data in here. This is almost too much to absorb.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
I am on the staffing analysis additional staffing metrics page. It's the second staffing analysis page.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
General? Is that one that? Is that the one?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. That looks like it.
No.
Okay.
There you go. That's it.
That one?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
So what's the difference between the counts and the ratios? The speech, the guidance counselor, we seem to be, except for Wayne Westland, 13.7 for speech, 16.5. What does that mean compared to student per counselor ratio?
So on the top where it says counts, speech, professional FTE, we have 13.7 employed in the district. And so when you come down, then look at that ratio. If it breaks it down, that'll show you how many we have per student. So the top is the total number of employees in that category, and then the bottom breaks it down as a ratio. Moving ahead to the next page, again, not focusing too much on the counts at the top, because the counts at the top and the dollars spent are going to vary dramatically depending on the number of students in the district. But more looking at those ratios. If you start looking at the expenses per pupil, as you break it down in these categories, a couple things to note here. In the bottom, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 10 or 11 categories. Looking at, for example, operations and maintenance expenditures per student. I highlighted a few of these just because the numbers appeared high. And, in pulling apart that number, that does look high as you compare it across the district. And I think what our voters just spoke to in this bond speaks volumes. think about the age of the buildings. Think about the last time we built a building in this district, and think about as a building ages, Leanne, you could certainly speak to this, the number of service calls we receive are going to be a lot higher as the building gets older compared to a newer building. If you have a building that's 6 years old or 7 years old, you're not putting a roof on it. You're not repairing 18 pipe breaks every winter. There is a whole host of savings, obviously, that come in the operations and maintenance side of the equation. Transportation expenditures per student, you can see that breakdown across the page. 701 is what we're paying per kid, and then look at that comparison across. Total current operation expenditures per student, 11,473, when you add all those figures together. Now, when we think about the per pupil funding right now in Taylor, part of the reason we've had a growing deficit and really had to make some tough decisions is we receive $8,000 per student. On top of that, we receive about $10 million when you look at special ed funding and reimbursable dollars. When you look at title funds and at-risk funds, $10 million on top of the $8,000 would have to be added on to make a better comparison. When you add $10 million onto that figure and divide by 6,700 students, it brings our revenue from 8,000 up to about 9,500. So you still have a negative balance. You're still bringing in less than you're spending. And obviously some areas that are higher cost will be some areas that we really need to sit down and take a look at when we do some work at a finance committee meeting in January. Just start teasing these numbers out. So this is more of that 30,000 foot overview and really understanding why some numbers are a little higher in various categories is more of the work that we'll begin to do as we move into the new year. Questions on this page?
How did they come up with these cohort districts? Because Allen Park and Lincoln Park, they have neighborhood schools, and they only, I know Lincoln Park only buses special ed students. By law, that's what they have to.
So that'll skew some of these comparisons, yeah. If you
Allen
go back,
Park's the same way, but if you look at the others, and was Van Buren the district that merged with Poughkeepsie?
No, that was Willow Run.
Willow Run, okay.
so if you go back to this, I think the second page, or the third page behind the title page, and you look at those peer districts, this is really why they're there. They're in our geographical area, that's the first. They're similar either in size or in students with free and reduced lunch percentage, for the most part. Pretty close in ELL, with the exception of Lincoln Park's an outlier in that percentage. And pretty similar, with the exception of Oak Park is the outlier in our percentage across the table of special ed students. So, the original breakdown, I know Penny included some districts all the way up near Flint that might have had a better student count like Match to Us, but geographically we're in a very different area, in a different county, and really we didn't have as much, we felt, as an ability to directly compare. So, before you look at one of these line items, and you certainly are probably going to know more specifics about some of our neighboring districts than I do at this point. It's important to remember all those other factors do weigh in, so that might skew our number high in one area or a little bit lower in others. But we thought it important definitely to have some of our Wayne County and geographic peers in here.
So going back to what I asked before about special ed, because special ed's going to skew it a couple ways. On
Sure.
the cost side, transport
Sure.
is a big one, but also as a revenue. This is really good data, but I think it's worthwhile if there were only one area that's broken out. Special ed kind of set up to itself, just because, you look at the number, and I don't know relatively, but I know that we have proportionately considerably higher numbers of kids in special ed than some of these districts as well.
And part of that is if you run a center-based program or have, POI program where you have other districts sending kids to you,
Right.
that is going to make your overall numbers obviously rise,
Right.
and their numbers go down.
Right.
And so, it's a give and take, and we have phenomenal programs that serve those kids, and, there's costs associated with those. So, those are, I don't want anyone to misread that, anything we're highlighting or talking about is an area of concern. It's more of an area of note that either, it's interesting because of geography, it's interesting because of programming, or it's something that we may want to, learn more about as we really drill down on these numbers.
And as we go through in deeper, at the finance committee as well, if there's items that we need to do additional research on, we can, or pull different ways, we can do that as well. I mean, this was just, the first go around to present the data, so additional information can be gathered and drilled down into each area if we need be.
This data was supposed to be given to us to help us when we submitted our DEP to the state
Correct.
months ago.
That's right.
So what's the relevance of this data now?
Well, it still helps us to plan for the future and look at areas in cost cutting. Although we're out of deficit, given the economic trends that we're seeing in the student population and accounts, and then the increases in different retirement rates and different costs, we do not have the funding to sustain us long term. So we need to keep moving in a strategic manner in order to reduce our costs and efficiently utilize everything that we have.
And I think Tom's pointing out our special ed costs are higher,
Correct.
and yet we educate a lot of special needs students, which is what we're in the business to do, but we pull a lot of money from our general fund in order to do that.
Yes, I would amend that slightly. I would say, all I'm saying is that if we're doing this type of analysis, it's great, but that's such a large outlier that if we're trying to turn this data into information, we need to break that out separately because it's larger numbers both on the cost and the revenue side. So it bears a separate distinction. It's probably the only area I can think of. So yeah, we do need to look at it, but I think to really understand line item by line item, we really need to kind of just break that off unto itself. I would say, my concern and the reason I think the importance of this is that we don't have line of sight to get to the 5% fund balance. At the end of the day, that's why we're still in early warning, right? Until we got line of sight and a plan that gets us there, we have to be looking in this detail, right?
Correct, because right now we have a fund balance of $850,000, which is less than 2%. And technically, we need 5%.
And, if you look just at the enrollment trends, which is why that first page was there, if you think about over 6 years, an enrollment decline of 13.3%, and then do the math on that, and understand that we may have increasing costs by category, but significantly decreasing revenue. 285 students is $2.3-ish million. That if that number is not here again next year, is a significant hit to the revenue side. And really, without adjustments, there is no removal on the expense side. So, those are things we need to continue.
Well, in fact, assuming expenses remain constant, there's no increase in MIPSers, for example.
The other thing is that without the millage, the enhancement millage passing, we would have been 2.6 million in the hole. So that 2.6 million is only here for 5 years. So if you're looking out to keep the district in the black for the next 5 years, once you cap the millage and you stop getting that 2.6, that's a huge hit to the general fund. So unless we take corrective action and make things financially stable within the next couple years, we're going to be back in the same trend that we have been for the past 4 years.
And I think we're all speaking the same way.
Yeah, we are.
And I don't mean to sound that in a negative way because we've done so much in the past couple years to stay in the black and move forward. But if we just stay stagnant as to where we are, then it's not going to be a good plan.
I'm just saying, as our special ed population increases, we do not get reimbursed for all special ed costs.
That's
So
correct.
we're pulling money from general fund. So the more special needs students that either move in or are part of our center program, that's money that we need to have a discussion about where is those extra funds coming from. So I just wanted to point that out.